Healing is a journey, but today I am hopeful. I am strong. I know I've made the right decision in getting my family out of an abusive situation. I'm empowered again. My name is Ashley. I am a local dentist. I'm a mother of 2 children. I've got a 2-year-old little girl and a 4-year-old little boy. I first got to the Valley in August of 2020. My family had been here, so I wanted to raise my children around grandparents, aunts, uncles. Before that, I'd been in Virginia, Florida, Connecticut. All of that was related to getting my dental career, and also I was married to a man that was in the military, and so we had frequent military moves. At the beginning of my relationship with my ex-husband, everything seemed like it was going to be a happily ever after. Nobody gets into a marriage thinking it's going to be anything else. For me, it started on a great note, and slowly things started creeping into the relationship that were very concerning. Outbursts of anger, silent treatments, throwing of things, being called names, and they weren't very frequent at first. They'd always be followed by profuse apologies. They would be accompanied by promises of change, and I believed him. And slowly over time, those became more and more frequent, more escalated, more severe. I remember one time I had just asked him to move his laundry from the dryer upstairs because I needed to do the children's nap mats for school and get those done. After almost a week, I finally just moved them myself to his room, and I was screamed at in front of my children for how dare I have touched his things. I was told that I had completely gone past where I was allowed to for him. I was called horrible names like trash, scum, garbage. He took all of his clothing and threw them over the banister and told me I could just look at them until he was ready to move them because those were his belongings and I was not to touch them. I begged him to stop, and even my little boy looked at the clothes on the floor and said, "Mommy, oh no, uh-oh, uh-oh." He was only 2.5, I think, at the time. I really believed, even though I knew that this was not a healthy relationship for me, I really believed that I was staying in it for the sake of my children. I didn't want them to feel like they were coming from a broken home. I didn't want that for them. I really hoped that their dad would turn around and he would go with those promises to get help, to be better for them, to be better for the family. So I endured the abuse, the belittling comments, the insults, the control, the manipulation, because I thought it was what was going to be best for them in the long run. At some point, it changed where the abuse started happening in front of them. And at that point, I realized it was worse for them to be from this sort of a family. This is not the example I wanted for them on what is normal in a relationship. And so I made the choice to get us out so that we would be in a safe home and safe environment. Something I wasn't expecting after filing for divorce was the financial abuse I endured. With the legal system currently, I was not able to sell our home. He was not able to financially contribute to it, and by myself, I couldn't afford our house payments and my children's childcare. So I found myself, my dinners most night was whatever the children didn't eat in their lunch boxes, because I couldn't afford any more groceries than I already had in the pantry. Sometimes I would cut off the skins of their apples or the crust of their bread, and that might be my breakfast as I was making their lunches for the day. And I could have never fathomed if you had asked me a decade ago that I would ever be in that situation, but here I was. When I finally made that step and asked for a divorce from my husband, I didn't expect things to escalate the way they did. He screamed at me. He told me he was going to make my life a living hell. He told me that he was going to turn my children against me and make me pay for leaving him. He threw a television. He took a lamp and shattered the lamp. And then he refused to leave the home. So he continued to live there with me and the children, making veiled threats, doing things that made me extremely uncomfortable, like taking photographs off of the walls and hiding them in my sheets and in the children's cribs of the family. I started locking my bedroom door. We had separate bedrooms, and he would go in when I was at work, go through all my things, sleep in my bed, rip up papers I had about mediation. And at one point I ended up getting a lock installed on the door that was separate because he kept doing these things. And I came home from work one day to find that the door had been bashed in. And at that point I realized I needed to get a restraining order. So I had talked to my parents about it, and my mom reminded me about Faces of Hope. So at that point, I made the decision to walk through that door of Faces of Hope. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I had nowhere to go. I had a great family support, but it's not the same thing. I needed help. Touching base with Faces of Hope first started with a phone call for one of their coordinators who I had left a message, and she called me back, and I was able to share my story with her and tell her what I needed. And she was able to connect me with several of the wonderful ladies at Faces of Hope, one of their legal representatives to help me understand what I could do to protect myself and the children, as well as one of their counselors who I was able to talk to help me work through all of the difficulties, the shame, the feeling of hopelessness that I had. And I was treated with nothing but respect and kindness. You walk in the door and everybody greets you with a smile. They offered something to eat, something to drink. I found out they even had a option to get clothes if you needed things for your family. They had a diaper bank if I needed it for my children. My youngest was only 10 months old at the time. And they were so generous, so welcoming, and you didn't feel like a failure. They made me realize that it doesn't matter what your situation is. There's no shame in taking something to help yourself and your family, because you can always pay it back later in a different way to somebody else who may need your help. I think being able to give back in any way to people who have also gone through similar abuse situations helps lead me on my path to healing. It makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel like I've been able to turn something terrible that happened to me into something that's good. I've been able to give back to some of the members of our community who have been in a similar situation to me. I've been able to talk to some neighbors I found out were going through abuse of their own. And I've also been able to work through my business to offer some dental services to people who may have gone through Faces of Hope, who have had a tooth knocked out, who may have been unable to get to a dentist due to control of their abuser or due to financial abuse. And so I've been so rewarded to see these women be able to come through the doors of my office and leave without that pain they walked in with, or to leave with a smile that gives them more confidence to be able to go throughout their day and feel better about themselves and feel empowered again. If you're in a situation where you feel like you need help, you need to protect yourself, you need to protect your children, I would say don't hesitate to at least go see what Faces of Hope can do for you. If you need something else, whether it's food, whether it's help finding a job to be able to support yourself, counseling services, or legal help. Faces has these things for you. And it's not just for other people, it's for you. Faces brings to mind the word healing. They help you get to a point of feeling destroyed and feeling like you're not enough, to understanding that this wasn't your fault, to understanding this can happen to anyone. It's not just the people you might think. It could be your neighbor, it could be, I'm a dentist, it could be your dentist, it could be anyone. And even though from the outside somebody might seem like they're put together, that they have everything going for them, that they are in a safe place, it's not always true. And anybody may need help.